Move over, sweetie. My mother-in-law climbed into our marital bed with a suitcase. When I asked what was going on, my husband mumbled, "Mom's staying with us for about 5 years." My answer echoed throughout the whole apartment building. Good day or evening, wherever you are. Make yourselves comfortable. Our story won't leave you indifferent. Let's begin. Vera Carlson stood by the window, clutching her 4-year-old daughter, Katie, to her chest. Outside, large drops of autumn rain fell lazily against the glass. She inhaled the scent of her child's hair, chamomile shampoo mixed with that special scent that only your own child has. "Mom, when are we going home?" Katie mumbled sleepily, not lifting her head. Vera swallowed a lump in her throat. How could she explain to her little girl that their old home was gone, that Dad, Dennis, had simply put their belongings in the hallway right after the divorce, changed the locks, and turned off his phone? "We're already home, sweetie. This is our new home." Their one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city seemed tiny after their previous 3-bedroom in downtown. Vera's parents had scraped together all their savings to help their daughter with the down payment. Retirees, they barely made ends meet, but without their help, Vera and Katie would have simply been on the street. Dennis, a successful lawyer with a sterling pedigree and an icy heart, turned out to be more than just a bad husband. He became a ruthless enemy. The day Vera, exhausted by his infidelities, finally filed for divorce, he literally transformed. His well-groomed face contorted, eyes narrowed, and voice became low and menacing. "You'll regret this. I'll leave you with nothing." He kept his word. Somehow, he convinced the court that the apartment was his premarital property. Vera wasn't even notified of the last hearing. She simply returned from work to find the locks changed and her and Katie's belongings piled in rain-soaked boxes. Now, looking at her falling asleep daughter, Vera swore to herself that she would never again allow anyone to take a roof over their heads. The rain had been pouring for 3 straight days. Vera ran from the bus stop to the daycare, leaping over puddles. Her umbrella kept turning inside out in the wind. Her tights were soaked to the knees, and her shoes squelched with water. The day had started off bad. She overslept her alarm. Then Katie was fussy and didn't want to wear her hat. At work, her boss chewed her out for being 10 minutes late. "Need a ride, I'm going that way." A dark blue sedan slowly pulled alongside the sidewalk. A man in his 30s with a pleasant, open face sat behind the wheel. "I don't get into cars with strangers," Vera snapped, quickening her pace. "Right," the man approved, continuing to drive alongside her. "But you're soaking wet. I'm heading towards Riverbend subdivision. I can drop you off anywhere along the way. I promise to behave myself." Vera stopped. She was indeed soaked to the bone and frustrated. She still had a long way to walk. The car also stopped. The man smiled openly and kindly. His eyes held no hint of that greasy interest she had learned to recognize in admirers after her divorce. "To the corner of Riverbend and Chestnut." Vera gave in. "And I'm sending a picture of your car and license plate to my friend." "Deal, deal." The man nodded. "Max, by the way, so you're divorced too," Vera mused, warming her hands around a paper coffee cup. They were sitting in a small coffee shop near the daycare. Max not only drove her to her destination, but also offered to buy her coffee until the downpour stopped. Strangely, Vera felt comfortable with him, for the first time in a long while. "It's been 3 years. Max nodded. "Olga and I just didn't see eye to eye. She's a demanding person, always wanted more than I could give." "And kids?" Vera asked cautiously. "2. A son and a daughter, 8 and 6 years old. Years." Max's face brightened. "That's why I work my butt off. I left the apartment to them, moved into a cheap rental, and I'm paying the mortgage and child support." "Wow." Vera genuinely admired him. It's rare to meet someone so responsible. "What was I supposed to do? Throw the kids out on the street?" Max shrugged. "Or make Olga wander around in rental apartments with them. No, that's not what a man does. Vera thought of Dennis, of how easily he had thrown her and Katie out of his life like unwanted junk. Max seemed to be the complete opposite: reliable, decent, caring. And you? Max asked. Divorced a year and a half ago. Vera nodded. He didn't want to maintain a relationship with our daughter. Said he was starting a new life and we were just in the way. She didn't tell him the whole truth about how Dennis kicked her and Katie out, about the court battles, about how she cried herself to sleep at night from helplessness and despair. That pain was still too fresh. That's just wrong, Max simply said. Kids are sacred. Vera smiled. Raindrops pattered against the coffee shop window, but inside it was warm and cozy. Their relationship developed slowly and cautiously. After the coffee shop, there were long phone calls, then joint walks in the park where Vera brought Katie. Max turned out to be a handyman. He fixed the leaky faucet, repaired the closet door, and helped assemble a new bed for Katie. Mom, is Max my daddy now? Katie once asked when they were returning from the playground, where Max had been teaching the girl to ride a bike. No, sweetie, Vera carefully replied. Max is just my friend. Too bad. Katie sighed. He's nice, and he reads stories better than you. Vera laughed, but something inside her clenched. Katie needed a father. After Dennis left, the girl became withdrawn, often cried in her sleep, and asked why Daddy didn't love them anymore. The child psychologist said it would pass, but Vera saw how her daughter came alive in Max's presence, how she craved masculine attention and care. Max and Katie truly hit it off. He brought her small gifts, inexpensive toys, and some amazing little things: an unusually shaped feather, a pretty pebble, a homemade bark boat. He told stories about space and dinosaurs, and taught her how to launch paper airplanes. You have a heart of gold, Vera once said when they were alone after Katie had fallen asleep. I just love kids. Max shrugged. I only see my own on weekends. Olga restricts contact in every way. Says I'm a bad influence on their upbringing. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Max philosophically remarked, especially to divorced men. We're immediately labeled as deadbeat dads and bad fathers, but I'd give my soul to see my kids every day. That evening, they kissed for the first time. 3 months later, Max began staying overnight. Let me move my things in with you, Max suggested after 6 months of dating. Paying for my tiny rental is just throwing money away. This way, it's more convenient for me and it helps you out. Vera hesitated. On one hand, their relationship was developing wonderfully, and Max had long become a close person to Katie. On the other hand, life experience had taught her caution. Aren't you rushing things? She asked. A one-bedroom is tiny. We'll be on top of each other. I can sleep on a folding cot. Max smiled. The main thing is to be near you. Eventually, she agreed. Max moved in with 2 suitcases, an old laptop, and a box of tools. Their life had to be rearranged in the tiny apartment. There was barely enough room for 3 people, but Max seemed not to notice the inconvenience. He cooked breakfast on weekends, picked Katie up from daycare when Vera was held up at work, and helped the girl with educational activities. You know, Vera once said when they were lying in bed after a particularly difficult day, sometimes I think you're too good to be true. Max turned to her, his eyes gleaming seriously in the dim light. I just know the value of family happiness. Vera, I lost it once. I don't want to lose it again. He pulled her close, and Vera thought that maybe fate had finally decided to compensate her for all her past suffering. Maybe she had finally met the right person with whom she could build a real family, a person who would never betray or abandon her. The one-bedroom apartment, which Vera had considered a cozy refuge after fleeing her ex-husband, had become a cage after a year. When Max first moved in, the cramped space felt like a running joke, an excuse to hug more often. 6 months into living together, it became a source of irritation and petty arguments. Your clothes are all over the place again. Vera picked up Max's jeans from the floor. We already have no space, and you. I just changed. Didn't have time to put them away, Max snapped, not looking up from his phone. What's with the complaints out of nowhere? Vera sighed and silently hung the jeans on the back of a chair. She didn't want to argue. Katie had just fallen asleep, and the apartment walls were paper thin. Their daily life resembled a game of Tetris. The sofa was unfolded when Katie went to sleep. Clothes were stored in boxes under the bed, and they had to eat in shifts because the small table could barely fit 2 people. But what worried Vera most was that Katie didn't have her own corner for playing and learning dolls. Books, stuffed animals, everything was crammed onto a shelf in the hallway. For drawing, she had to clear the coffee table and then quickly put everything away to make room for dinner. Mommy, my dinosaur is lost, Katie whined, rummaging through a box of toys. It's probably in another box. Sweetie, let's look tonight, Vera replied, getting her daughter ready for daycare and glancing at the clock. But the main problem became preparing for school. Katie had turned 6, and next year she would be a first grader. Where will we put her desk? Vera once asked, looking at the cluttered room. She'll need a place to do her homework. Max looked up from his laptop. Maybe we can buy a foldable one. We can set it up for homework time. And where will she keep her textbooks, notebooks, backpack? Vera shook her head. That won't work. Max, we need a bigger apartment. Max put down his laptop, a look of interest appearing on his face. Have you thought about it? About buying a new apartment? I mean, of course I have. Vera sat on the edge of the sofa. I have some savings. Not a lot, but enough for a down payment. The rest would be a mortgage. My parents promised to help if needed. Great. Max moved closer. And what neighborhood are you considering? I'd like to be closer to a good school? Maybe Sunnybrook or Birchwood Grove? Those are expensive. Max shook his head. Let me help you with the search. We'll set a budget. Look at options together. Vera smiled, but something inside her twinged. She remembered how Dennis had once helped her with financial matters and then left her with nothing. But Max is different, she thought. He left his apartment to his kids, lives modestly, thinks about family. I'm just looking around for now, she answered evasively. Nothing concrete. The topic resurfaced a week later when they were putting Katie to bed. The girl couldn't fall asleep for a long time, tossing and turning on her narrow bed. Mommy, when will I have my own room? She asked sleepily. Like Sarah's, with stars that glow on the wall and a closet with princess dresses and a desk with drawers. Soon, sweetie. Vera stroked her head. Mommy's already looking for a new apartment for us, where you'll have your own room. When Katie finally fell asleep, Max looked meaningfully at Vera. So you're already looking, but you told me you were just looking around. I am just looking around. Vera shrugged. Is something wrong? No. Max raised his hands in a conciliatory gesture. I just thought we'd make decisions like that together. We're a family. Aren't we? Vera remained silent. Formally, they did live like a family daily life, caring for Katie, a joint budget for groceries and utilities, but something prevented her from fully trusting Max with the apartment purchase. Perhaps the trauma of past betrayal, or perhaps an intuition she had once ignored and paid dearly for. A 2-bedroom in Sunnybrook, newly renovated, near a great English immersion school. The realtor, Ann Taylor, an energetic woman in her 50s, showed Vera photos on her tablet. It's a bit over your budget, but the owner is willing to discuss a discount. They were sitting in a small cafe next to the real estate agency office. Vera had deliberately chosen a time when Max was at work. In recent weeks, he had shown a strange interest in her finances, casually asking about her savings, speculating aloud about how much mortgage they could get, and offering to introduce her to an excellent mortgage broker who could arrange everything with a minimal down payment. What about the utilities? Are the pipes old? Vera asked, looking at the photos of the bright kitchen. The building is only 15 years old. and the renovation was done 3 years ago. Everything is fine, the realtor assured her. Would you like to go see it tomorrow? The owner will be available after 6 hours. Yes, let's do it. Vera nodded. But if possible, please don't give my number to anyone. I don't want to publicize the purchase yet. Ann Taylor smiled understandingly. Confidentiality is our top priority. Don't worry. The next day, Vera took time off from work early, making up a story about Katie's medical checkup. She told Max she would be late from the clinic and asked him to pick up their daughter from daycare. The apartment was exactly as it appeared in the photos. Bright, spacious, with an excellent layout. The rooms were separate, the balcony was enclosed, and the bathroom had new tiles. But most importantly, the children's room faced the courtyard, where a new playground was visible. We could make a study area for Katie here, Vera mused aloud, planning the furniture arrangement. And put a bookshelf here. Are you taking it? The owner, a gray-haired man in glasses who had approached them, asked. I need to think about it. Vera replied. It's a very good option, but I have a few others in mind. Stepping out of the building, she took a deep breath. She liked the apartment, but the price was steep. She would have to take out a 15-year mortgage, and the monthly payment would be almost half her salary. On the other hand, the neighborhood was excellent. The school was nearby, and it was only 2 tram stops to work. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Max, where are you? He asked without a greeting. Katie and I have been home for an hour already. We reheated dinner, and you're still not here. I was held up at the clinic. Vera lied. You know how long the waits are. I'll be home soon. Why do I hear street noise? Max's voice became suspicious. Are you really at the clinic? I just left. I'm heading to the bus stop. Vera, you're lying. Max's voice hardened. I called the clinic. There's no pediatrician's appointment today. Where are you? Vera felt a lump rise in her throat. He had checked up on her. Listen, I'll explain everything when I get home. Explain it now, Max demanded. Are you seeing someone? Do you have someone else? What nonsense, Vera snapped. I was looking at an apartment, if you're so interested. And yes, I didn't tell you because I wanted to evaluate the options myself first. Silence hung in the air. An apartment? Then, Max finally said in a strange tone. Without me. I see. Come home. We'll talk. He hung up, leaving Vera bewildered. What did I see mean? Why was he speaking in such a tone? Why did he suddenly think she was cheating on him all the way home? Vera replayed the upcoming conversation in her head. She didn't like that Max had checked up on her, called the clinic. It reminded her of the control Dennis had exerted in the last months of their marriage. But on the other hand, she had indeed lied. Maybe she should have told him about the apartment search right away. At home, a tense silence greeted her. Katie was already asleep, and Max sat in the kitchen, grimly staring into a cup of long cold tea. Hi, Vera said cautiously, taking off her coat. And how long have you been looking at apartments? Max asked without preamble. 2 weeks, she answered honestly. Nothing serious, just exploring the market. And you didn't want to tell me because... Max met her gaze directly. Vera sighed and sat opposite him. Because it's my apartment. Max, I'm buying it with my money and putting it in my name. It seemed logical to me to choose a place that would meet our needs, Katie's and mine. Katie's and yours, Max repeated slowly. And I'm just not a part of this. That's not what I meant. Vera winced. Of course, you'll live with us. It's just that I make the financial decisions myself. So, I'm nobody to you. Max slammed his palm on the table. Just a roommate you let into your territory. Quiet. Vera cast a worried glance towards the room where Katie was sleeping. Don't dramatize. We've only been living together for a little over a year. I'm sorry, but I'm not ready to get financially involved with anyone after everything I've been through. And I thought we were a family, Max grimaced. Turns out I'm just a fifth wheel in your life. Stop it, Vera said tiredly. You know perfectly well that I value our relationship, but an apartment isn't just walls, it's my child's security. You yourself saw the situation we were in after the divorce, and you think I'm capable of that. Max pounded his chest. Me, who left his apartment to his ex-wife and kids I work my butt off so they have a place to live, and you compare me to some scumbag. I'm not comparing anyone to anyone. Vera tried to speak calmly. I'm just taking precautions. It's my right. You're right, Max echoed. And my right to know who I'm building a relationship with, a person who trusts me, or a woman who sees me as a potential threat. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Where are you going? Vera asked, bewildered. To clear my head, Max threw over his shoulder. I need to think. The door closed behind him. Vera sank onto the sofa, feeling everything inside her constrict with anxiety. Maybe she was being too suspicious. Maybe Max was right, and she was unfairly projecting her ex-husband's behavior onto him. But then, other episodes flashed in her memory how Max had inquired about her salary and bonuses, how he had pried about her savings, how he had offered to help with the mortgage application, and that strange, insistent desire to be a co-owner of an apartment to which he wouldn't contribute a penny. No, Vera decided. Her intuition wasn't lying. Something was off, and she wouldn't let herself be fooled again. The price of her past mistake had been too high. Max returned after midnight, silently undressed, and lay on the edge of the sofa, facing the wall. Vera pretended to be asleep, for the first time in their entire relationship. A heavy, impenetrable silence hung between them. The cramped walls of the one-bedroom apartment seemed to shrink around them, making the silence even more oppressive and hopeless. The morning after the argument brought only the appearance of a truce. Max demonstratively prepared breakfast, smiling at Katie, but when the girl was distracted, his gaze became cold and calculating. Vera felt these changes as a seismograph feels the vibrations of the earth before an earthquake. Max, we need to talk, she said when Katie went to her room to watch cartoons. About what? He raised his eyebrows with feigned surprise. I think you made everything perfectly clear yesterday. The apartment is yours. I'm nobody. Just a temporary traveling companion in your life. I never said that. Vera shook her head. You're deliberately twisting my words. And how else am I supposed to understand them? Max slammed his cup down on the table. We've been living together for a year. I'm raising your child like my own, and you… Wait. Vera tensed. What do you mean, raising? You're not her father. Max. There. He triumphantly raised a finger. That's exactly what I'm talking about. To you. I'm an empty space. But to Katie? Ask her who she thinks I am. Ask her… Vera felt everything inside her clench. She had indeed noticed that Katie was becoming more and more attached to Max. The girl missed her father, and the attention of an adult man was like a sip of water in the desert for her. I'm grateful for your relationship with Katie, Vera began cautiously. But that doesn't give you the right to claim to a share in the apartment. Max interrupted. Let's be frank. You're afraid I'll take your home, take everything, throw you out on the street. I just want to protect my daughter, Vera said firmly. And myself, too. From whom? From me. Max drilled her with his gaze. Don't you think that's insulting? And don't you think your desire to become a co-owner of an apartment you won't contribute a penny to is strange? Vera countered. Max flinched as if she had hit her target, but quickly composed himself. I'm investing my heart, my care, my time into our relationship. Does that count for nothing? It counts. Vera nodded. But it has nothing to do with the apartment. It does. If we're a family… Max's voice rose. We are not a family, Vera said quietly but firmly. We are a couple, yes. But legally, we are nothing to each other. Light footsteps were heard in the hallway. Katie was coming to the kitchen. Max instantly transformed. His tensed shoulders relaxed. A smile appeared on his face. "Did the cartoon end?" he asked the girl in a gentle voice. "Yes." Katie climbed onto his lap. "Are we going to the park today?" "Of course, sweetie." Max stroked her head, throwing a meaningful glance at Vera. This gesture, this demonstrative display of closeness with her daughter after their conversation, seemed ominous to Vera. Over the next week, the tension in the apartment grew. Max behaved impeccably with Katie, but was dry and formal with Vera. And most importantly, he began subtly endearing himself to Katie, buying her small gifts, taking her to ice cream parlors, reading her bedtime stories for longer than usual. "You know, yesterday I told Katie how my kids and I went fishing," he casually mentioned to Vera. "She really wanted to go with us next time. Says she wants to meet my Tim and Allie." "And what did you tell her?" Vera asked cautiously. "That I'd definitely introduce them." Max shrugged. "What's the big deal? We're all one family anyway." Vera remained silent, but inside, everything was boiling. He was deliberately building attachment, making Katie get used to him, to see him as part of her life. Why? To make the breakup more painful later, or to use that attachment as leverage. On Saturday, Vera was supposed to meet with the realtor to sign a preliminary agreement for the apartment purchase in the Sunnybrook neighborhood. She decided not to tell Max beforehand, but as if sensing something, he announced that he wanted to take Katie for the whole day to the water park, then to the movies, and in the evening, to a children's play. "I already bought the tickets." He showed them to Katie, who jumped with delight. "A whole day of fun. Just you and me, and Mom?" the girl asked. "Mom has her own things to do," Max replied, looking intently at Vera. "Right? Yes?" She nodded reservedly. "I'm meeting a friend?" As soon as Max and Katie left, Vera grabbed her phone and called the realtor. "Anne, can we move our meeting an hour earlier? I'm afraid I won't be able to make it at 2. "No problem. Vera," the woman replied. "I'll be waiting for you at the office at 1. Vera quickly got ready and left the house. A strange premonition didn't leave her, as if she was participating in some game whose rules only Max knew. At the agency office, the prepared documents were already laid out, a preliminary agreement by which Vera would make a down payment and commit to closing the deal within a month. The realtor explained all the points in detail, particularly emphasizing the conditions for returning the down payment. "Sign here and here," Anne pointed. "And it's best to make the down payment now. I'll write you a receipt." Vera took the prepared money from her purse and placed it on the table. Suddenly, she trembled, either from excitement or from a premonition of an irrevocable step. The apartment she was about to buy was good, but the price exceeded her initial budget. The mortgage would be for 15 years, the monthly payment almost half her salary. But for Katie, Vera thought, everything for her. She had already picked up the pen when the office door burst open. Max stood in the doorway, holding a bewildered Katie's hand. "There you are." His voice rang with thinly veiled triumph. "Katie and I have been looking for you all over town. Right? Katie?" "Max." Vera stood up, feeling her knees buckle. "You were going to the water park. Plans changed." He walked into the office, brazenly looking at the documents on the table. "Decided to drop by the real estate agency. What a coincidence. How did you know where I was?" Vera's throat went dry. "Doesn't matter." Max waved her off. "What matters is I see you're about to buy an apartment without me, in secret." "Mommy, are you fighting?" Katie looked fearfully from one adult to the other. "No, sweetie." Vera tried to speak calmly. "Just discussing grown-up things. Wait for us in the hallway." "Okay." "She's not going anywhere." Max cut in. "Let her know the truth. Your mom." "Katie decided to buy a new apartment and not tell me. Do you know why? Because I'm a stranger to her." "Stop it!" Vera exclaimed. "Don't drag the child into this." "And who is this?" "Anyway," Max pointed to the stunned realtor. "In on the conspiracy too." "Anne, I'm so sorry," Vera mumbled. "We have personal matters." I see. The realtor coughed. Perhaps you two should talk alone. I can step out. No need. Max suddenly smiled, but there was nothing friendly in his smile. I just want to understand on what grounds my common-law wife is buying an apartment without my knowledge. Common-law wife? Vera felt anger boiling within her. Max, we just live together, and I'm buying an apartment with my own money. It doesn't concern you. It does, he snapped. We're family, and in a family, all decisions are made jointly. We are not family. Vera couldn't hold back, and your behavior is the best proof of that. Katie began to cry quietly. Vera rushed to her, but Max blocked her path. Don't touch her. You've done enough already. Get away from my child. Vera's voice became low and threatening. Your child. Max's lips twisted into a sneer. What about our family? What about Max is like a dad to me? Or were you just saying that to use me as a free babysitter? Mommy! Katie broke free from Max's grasp and ran to Vera. Vera hugged her daughter tightly, feeling the little heart pounding. Quiet, sweetie. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. I want to go home, Katie sobbed. We'll go now. Vera glanced at the realtor. Anne, I'm so sorry, but we'll have to postpone the deal. Of course. Vera, the woman quickly replied. Call me when you're ready. She won't be ready, Max interrupted. Because now we'll make all decisions together, won't we? Darling, get out, Vera said quietly but firmly. Just leave. It's over between us. Max looked at her with a long gaze, a mix of anger, surprise, and something else, perhaps wounded pride. Then he looked at Katie and suddenly softened. Bug, you want us to stay a family, right? You want me to live with you? The girl clung tighter to her mother, not answering. See? Vera sneered scornfully. Even a child senses the falsehood. This was a low blow. Max's face contorted. He stepped towards Vera as if to hit her, but instead spat out. You'll regret this. Both of you will regret this. And he left, slamming the door loudly. At home. Vera couldn't calm Katie for a long time. The girl cried, then asked where Max had gone and when he would return, then suddenly fell silent, lost in her thoughts. Mommy, is Max really not going to live with us anymore? She asked before bed. Yes, sweetie. Vera stroked her daughter's hair. He has his own home. And is he mean? Katie suddenly asked, surprising Vera with her perceptiveness. Vera pondered. How to explain the complexity of adult relationships to a child, how to talk about manipulations, selfish motives, calculation. No, not mean, she finally answered. It's just that adults sometimes have different interests. Sometimes people can't agree, and they decide to live separately. Like you and Daddy, Katie clarified. Yes, like me and Daddy. Vera nodded, feeling her heart clench. Another separation, another trauma for her little girl. Vera swore to herself that she would never again allow anyone to enter their lives so deeply until Katie grew up, until she became independent. Putting her daughter to bed. Vera heard a key being inserted into the lock. Her heart jumped. Max! She had completely forgotten he had keys to the apartment. Vera slipped out of the room, quietly closing the door. Max stood in the hallway, surprisingly calm, even relaxed. I'm here for my things, he said, walking past her into the room. I won't disturb your idol. Just pack everything and leave. Vera crossed her arms, watching him take out a duffel bag and begin folding clothes. You know, I should probably thank you, Max suddenly said, not looking at her. You taught me a valuable lesson. What lesson? Vera tensed, expecting a trap. Never trust women with a child. He finally looked up at her. You're all the same. You're not looking for a partner, but a wallet and a babysitter all rolled into one. And as soon as it comes to serious decisions, it's immediately, this is mine, nothing here is yours. Is that how you see it? Vera shook her head. And what about you trying to get a share of the apartment without contributing a penny? Is that normal? I did contribute. Max flared up. Every day with care, attention, time. Did that count for nothing? I was a husband to you and a father to your daughter. And you just used me. You think so? Vera gave a bitter laugh. Or maybe it was you who used us. Living in my apartment, eating my food, only paying for utilities, and still having the nerve to claim a share in a new apartment. I loved you, Max said dully. No, Vera shook her head. You loved the idea of easy money. You thought you'd found a convenient fool who, out of gratitude for your attention, would put part of the property in your name. Max flinched, and Vera knew she had hit the mark. All this time, he had been playing his own game, hoping to get a share of the real estate without much effort. You know what the funniest thing is, Vera continued, feeling anger ignite within her. If you had just said, let's get married, I love you and Katie, I might have even agreed, but you immediately started talking about a share in the apartment, about ownership, not about feelings, not about the future, but about square footage. And you offered me to live in your apartment on shaky ground, Max snapped back, without any guarantees, like some hanger-on. What guarantees do you need if you love someone? Vera threw up her hands. What kind of mercenary, what kind of bartering is this? Oh, who's talking about being mercenary? Max let out a short laugh. You're calculating to the bone. Everything for yourself. Everything under control. I'm protecting my child, Vera snapped. And you just wanted to profit. Max froze, shirt in hand. Then he slowly put it in the bag and zipped it up. You won't believe it, but I really thought we were a family, he said after a pause. That we were serious. I was planning to propose. Oh, come on, Vera scoffed. You never even talked about marriage, only about a share in the apartment. Because I thought that's what you wanted, Max exclaimed. All women want to get married, especially with a child. A marriage certificate, a dress, rings, all that nonsense. And I don't want that, Vera calmly replied. I've been married before, and it brought me nothing but pain. I don't need a marriage certificate. I need a person who will be there, not for gain, but because they love me. Max looked at her with disbelief. Are you saying you wouldn't have married me? Definitely not now, Vera chuckled. But before, maybe I would have considered it. If you had proposed out of love, not because of an apartment. Max was silent, processing the information. Something in his gaze changed, as if he was truly seeing Vera for the first time, understanding who he was dealing with. And even if we had gotten married, he said slowly, you still wouldn't have included me in the share when buying the apartment, would you? No, Vera answered firmly. I would have put it in my name, or in extreme cases, in my parents' names, to protect Katie, because you don't trust me, because you were once left on the street with a child. Vera looked him straight in the eyes and swore that would never happen again. Max picked up his bag and headed for the exit. At the door, he stopped. You know, it's even good that we sorted things out now. I thought you were different. I thought trust, intimacy, family were important to you. But you're just a mercenary, selfish woman who only thinks about herself. About myself and my child, Vera corrected. And I'm not ashamed of it. Max shook his head as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. You're so cold. You calculated everything, planned everything, and I thought there was something real between us. With those words, he left, gently closing the door behind him. Vera stood in the hallway, feeling a strange mixture of relief and bitterness. She knew she had done the right thing, protecting herself and her daughter from a man who saw them only as a means to improve his financial situation. But it still hurt. It hurt because for a while, she had truly believed that Max was that reliable and loving person. Vera returned to her daughter's room. Katie was sleeping, hugging a teddy bear, Max's last gift. Tomorrow, a new chapter in their lives would begin. Perhaps she would have to postpone buying the apartment, revise her plans. But one thing Vera knew for sure, she would never again allow anyone to dictate terms to her, especially when it came to her child's safety. Tusit. The morning after Max left was surprisingly quiet. Vera woke up earlier than usual, listening to the sounds in the apartment. No footsteps in the kitchen, no clinking of cups, no muffled voice mumbling something under the radio news. Only Katie's steady breathing and the ticking of the clock. A strange sense of emptiness mingled with relief, as if a weight that had imperceptibly pressed on her shoulders had suddenly vanished, and Vera could finally straighten her back. She carefully got out of bed, trying not to wake her daughter. In the kitchen, she mechanically made coffee for two, only then realizing her mistake, pouring the second cup down the sink with unexpected bitterness, watching the dark liquid disappear down the drain. How quickly we get used to another person's presence, Vera thought, looking out the window at the waking city. The phone rang. Ann Taylor, the realtor. "Good morning. Vera, sorry for the early call." The woman's voice sounded concerned. "I wanted to see how you're doing after yesterday's incident." "Everything's fine." Vera closed the kitchen door so as not to wake Katie. "Thanks for understanding. So, are you still interested in the apartment? The owner is waiting for a decision. He has other buyers." Vera took a deep breath. After yesterday's scene, she had barely thought about the apartment. Too many emotions, too much turmoil. "I need a few days to think it over," she answered honestly. "The situation has changed." "I understand." The realtor's voice sounded disappointed. "But keep in mind that such options don't stay on the market for long." "I'll call you back tomorrow," Vera promised. "Definitely." She hung up and tiredly rubbed her temples. The apartment was almost perfect, a spacious children's room for Katie, a decent school across the street, good transport links. But the price was at the limit of her capabilities. The monthly mortgage payment would eat up almost her entire salary, leaving no buffer for unforeseen circumstances. "Mommy?" Katie's sleepy voice interrupted her thoughts. "Where's Max?" Vera put down her cup and knelt in front of her daughter. "He's gone. Sweetie, remember we talked yesterday?" Katie nodded, her lower lip trembling. "He's not coming back." "No, honey." Vera stroked her daughter's disheveled hair. "We'll live together now, just like before." "Because of the apartment?" Katie suddenly asked, surprising Vera with her perceptiveness. "Partly," she answered cautiously. "But it's not just about the apartment. It's just that adults sometimes can't agree on important things." "Like you and Daddy," Katie sighed with a wisdom beyond her years. "Yes, like me and Daddy." Vera hugged her daughter, feeling a lump in her throat. Another breakup, another trauma for her little girl. Vera swore to herself that she would never again allow anyone to enter their lives so deeply until Katie grew up, until she became independent. The weekend passed in a strange daze. Vera tried to keep Katie busy. They went to the park, made dumplings, watched cartoons. The girl occasionally asked about Max, but without the anxiety Vera had feared. It seemed Katie had accepted the changes in their lives more quickly than her mother. On Sunday evening, her mother called. "Vera, darling, how are you two doing? You haven't visited in a while." Her mother's voice, Susan's, sounded concerned. "Everything's fine, Mom." Vera took a deep breath. "It's just that Max and I broke up." "Oh." A short silence on the other end of the line. "What happened?" Vera briefly recounted the conflict, omitting the most unpleasant details. Her mother listened without interrupting. "So, he wanted a share of the apartment," she mused when Vera finished. "That's not good." "Of course. But maybe you're judging him too harshly. A man needs to feel like the master of his house." "Mom," Vera protested. "He wanted to get real estate for free, without contributing a penny." "Well, you were a couple." Susan hesitantly argued. A couple always has shared property. We weren't married, Vera snapped. And even if we were, I still wouldn't have risked Katie's well-being. Vera, darling, her mother's voice sounded anxious. You're becoming so harsh. Men feel that. You're over 30 with a child. It's not easy to find a decent man. Vera closed her eyes, suppressing her irritation. The same old song latch onto anyone who agrees to take you with a child, as if loneliness were the worst thing that could happen to a woman. Better to be alone than with a calculating manipulator, she said firmly. And anyway, I don't need advice on my personal life. I need to ask you about the apartment. For the next half hour, they discussed options, calculated the budget, weighed all the pros and cons of a mortgage. In the end, her mother suggested maybe you should postpone the purchase for a year or a year and a half. Save up more. The market will stabilize. Katie isn't going to school until next year anyway. You're probably right, Vera sighed. I just wanted to give her decent conditions. You have decent conditions now, Susan countered. Not ideal, but perfectly adequate. And in a year, who knows? The situation might change for the better. After talking to her mother, Vera felt relieved. The decision had come naturally. She would postpone the purchase, save more, perhaps find a part-time job, and most importantly, she wouldn't rush or make decisions under pressure. On Monday morning, she called Ann Taylor and informed her that she was declining the offer for now. The realtor was disappointed but promised to keep Vera informed of new interesting offers. And one more thing, Vera added before saying goodbye. I'd like the information about my apartment search to remain confidential. Of course, Ann assured her. We value our clients' privacy. That evening, after Vera picked Katie up from daycare, an unpleasant surprise awaited them. Max was standing near the entrance, leaning against his car. Vera instinctively squeezed her daughter's hand tighter. Max, Katie exclaimed joyfully, but Vera held her in place. We need to talk, Max stated without preamble, pushing off the car and taking a step towards them. There's nothing to talk about, Vera snapped. Please leave. Vera, don't be like that. He smiled that charming smile that had once melted her heart. I was too emotional. You were too emotional. Let's discuss everything calmly. Katie, wait for me here. Vera led her daughter to a bench by the entrance. I'll talk to Max and be right back. She walked a few steps away with Max, keeping Katie in sight at all times. What do you want? She asked bluntly. To get back together. Max simply replied. I was wrong. I shouldn't have pressured you about the apartment. Of course. It's your money. Your right to decide. I just wanted to feel like part of the family. You know, Vera watched him carefully, trying to discern if he was sincere. Max looked remorseful, his gaze downcast, shoulders slightly hunched, an expression of regret on his face. And what changed in these 2 days? She asked. I realized how much you mean to me. Max looked up at her. You and Katie. Without you, it's empty. I didn't even realize how used I was to you, how much you became my family. Vera remained silent, not falling for his emotional ploys. Something in his words sounded false, rehearsed, like a memorized script. And I also thought about your situation. Max continued. You're in a difficult position too. A small 1-bedroom, Katie going to school soon. I can help. Help. Vera tensed. Financially. Yes. Max nodded. I have some savings. Not enough for a full down payment. Of course. But I can add to your first payment. No strings attached. Just as a gift. You don't even have to include me in the ownership. Vera looked at him with disbelief. Such a sharp change in his stance. Sudden generosity, it all seemed extremely suspicious. And what do you want in return? She asked directly. Nothing. Max spread his hands. Just the chance to be with you. Like before. Vera shook her head. I'm sorry, but I don't believe in such miraculous transformations. 2 days ago, you called me mercenary and selfish and slammed the door. And today, you're offering money with no strings attached. Something doesn't add up. Max's face contorted for a moment, but he quickly composed himself. I just thought a lot. Vera realized I acted like an idiot, that I almost lost the most valuable thing I have. No, Max, Vera said firmly. I appreciate your remorse, but our relationship is over. I can't be with someone I don't trust. And after your outburst at the agency, I don't trust you. You're making a mistake. A harsh note entered Max's voice. Think about Katie. She needs a father. Don't use my child. Vera felt anger boiling inside her. That's low. I'm not using her, I'm caring. Max's voice rose. Unlike you, I think not only about square footage, but also about a child needing a complete family. Stop. Vera took a step back. Our conversation is over. Please don't come here anymore, or I'll call the police. She turned to leave, but Max grabbed her arm. You'll regret this. Do you think it'll be easy to find someone who'll bother with someone else's kid, who'll accept you with all your quirks and paranoia? Let go of me. Vera yanked her arm away. Or I'll call the police. Max released her fingers. His face contorted with anger. Fine. Just don't cry later that you're alone, that nobody wants you with your issues and a kid on your hands. Vera silently turned and walked to Katie. Her heart pounded in her temples, blood rushed, but outwardly, she tried to remain calm. Let's go home, sweetie. She took her daughter's hand. Time for dinner. And Max. Katie looked back at the man who was still standing by the car, glaring at them. Max went on his way. Vera answered evenly, entering the apartment building. As she climbed the stairs, she thought about what had just happened. Max clearly wasn't going to give up so easily. His attempt to return, that strange offer of financial help, was it sincere remorse or another manipulation? In any case, Vera was sure she had done the right thing. Trust, once broken, is impossible to rebuild, and without trust, relationships are doomed. The next day after work, Vera went to her parents' house. They lived in an old 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood, modest but cozy. Her mother bustled around the kitchen, preparing Katie's favorite apple pie. Her father helped his granddaughter assemble a puzzle. How was work? Her father asked when they were alone. Katie had run off to the kitchen to help her grandmother. Fine, Vera shrugged. Just the usual routine. And what did you decide about the apartment? I've put that on hold for now. She sighed. I'll keep saving. Her father nodded, then paused as if gathering his thoughts. You know, your mom and I talked it over. We have some savings. Not a lot, but enough for a down payment. We want to help. Dad, Vera looked at her father, touched. You already do so much for us. I can manage. Vera, darling. He took her hand. You're our only daughter. Katie's our only grandchild. Who else would we save for? We're not getting any younger. And you two need a proper home, especially now that you're on your own. I'll think about it, Vera said softly, feeling tears welling up. Thank you. They sat in silence, holding hands. In that silence, there was so much love and support, more than Vera had felt in any of her relationships. And you know, her father suddenly said with a sly smile, maybe there's an even better option. What? Vera asked, surprised. Your mom and I have been thinking about moving closer to nature for a while. The doctor recommends fresh air for me, and my joints ache from the city humidity. We found a small house in the suburbs, in a garden community not expensive, but it has a yard, a gazebo, a sauna, and Vera didn't understand what he was getting at. And we could sell this apartment, her father explained. The money would be enough for the small house and to help you with a new apartment. Of course, not downtown, but a 2-bedroom in a decent neighborhood, definitely achievable. Vera stared at her father, not believing her ears. They were willing to sell the apartment they had lived in their whole lives. What's so special about it? Her father shrugged. Walls, ceiling, floor. The main thing is to have family together, not where you live. At that moment, Katie and her grandmother came out of the kitchen with a tray on which a freshly baked pie was steaming. "Who wants tea and pie?" Susan announced happily, looking at her daughter's happy face, at her smiling parents. Vera suddenly realized that this was true support. True love, not the kind that demands proof in the form of a share in real estate, but the kind that gives without expecting anything in return. "I'll think about your offer, Dad," she said quietly. "Thank you, Ed." A week passed, and Vera hadn't heard a word from Max, which was a good sign. Perhaps he had finally understood that she didn't need a relationship based on calculation and manipulation. On Friday, returning from work, she found an unmarked envelope without a return address in her mailbox. Inside was a page torn from a notepad, Max's handwriting. "Vera, I still believe we could have been together, but if you've made up your mind, so be it. I'm freeing you from my presence. I hope you find someone who appreciates your selflessness and impracticality. Goodbye, M." Vera crumpled the note and threw it into the trash can by the entrance. Well, it seemed he had finally accepted her decision. Now she could calmly move forward. Going up to her apartment, she first checked the locks. After the breakup, she hadn't gotten around to changing them. She should take care of that this weekend. The evening passed in pleasant chores. She and Katie made dinner, watched cartoons, and read a book before bed. When her daughter fell asleep, Vera opened her laptop and started browse apartment listings again. After talking to her parents, the prospects had changed. Now she could afford a better option, perhaps even in that very Sunnybrook neighborhood. The phone rang around 11 February p.m. The number was blocked. "Hello?" Vera answered cautiously. "Vera?" A woman's voice sounded anxious. "It's Olga, Max's ex-wife." Vera tensed. They had never met. Max had emphatically avoided any contact with his ex-family. "Yes, this is she. What happened? Are you and Max together?" Olga's voice was full of alarm. "No, we broke up," Vera replied. "Why, thank goodness." The woman exhaled with relief. "So he lied to me. He said you two were planning to get married, and I was interfering with my demands for child support." "Child support?" Vera couldn't believe her ears. "What child support? He said he paid regularly." Olga's bitter laugh grated on her ears. "He hasn't given a penny in the last 6 months, and before that, he paid sporadically, only when he was really pushed." Vera slowly sank onto a chair, feeling everything inside her grow cold. "He said he left you the apartment after the divorce," she said quietly. "Apartment." Olga's voice sounded genuinely surprised. "What apartment? We never owned our own home. We always rented, and when we split up, I moved back in with my parents with the kids. And the cheap rental." Vera clung to the last straw. "He said he lived in a cheap rental." "Cheap rental?" Olga scoffed. "Max was renting a room from a friend of his. That's why it was cheap." "What cheap rental?" Vera remained silent, processing the information. Max had lied to her from the very beginning. All those stories about nobility, about caring for his children, about his difficult financial situation due to supporting his ex-family, it was all a lie. A cunningly spun lie to elicit her sympathy and win her trust. "Why are you calling me?" Vera finally asked. "Because he showed up at my place today." Olga's voice trembled. "He threatened me, demanded I give up child support, said he had a new family and needed money for an apartment. I was scared. I found out about you from mutual acquaintances and decided to warn you." "Thank you." Vera genuinely thanked her. "Max and I are no longer together, and we won't be. Be careful." Olga warned. "He's not who he pretends to be." I realized that too late. After the call, Vera sat in the darkness for a long time, staring out the window. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had narrowly escaped a trap. All those months, beside her was not a caring, honest man, but a liar and manipulator. ready to exploit any opportunity for his own gain. She flinched, remembering how easily she had let him into her life, how she had allowed him to get close to Katie. What would have happened if she had given in to his persuasion and put him on the apartment deed? What would the next step in his plan have been? The phone rang again. This time, it was Max's number. "Yes," Vera answered coldly. "Hey." His voice sounded strangely cheerful. "How are my favorite girls doing?" "What do you want?" "Max?" Vera tried to speak calmly, but inside, everything was boiling with anger. "Just checking in on you," he replied casually. "I was thinking, maybe we should meet again, talk without emotions, calmly." "I know the truth. Max," Vera cut in. "Olga called me." A heavy pause hung in the line. "And what did that psychopath tell you?" Max finally seethed. "She's been poisoning my life for years. Lying, manipulating, turning the kids against me. Goodbye, Max." Vera spoke firmly. "Don't call anymore. And don't come here. Otherwise, I'll go to the police." She hung up without waiting for a reply and immediately blocked his number. Then she took a deep breath and looked at her sleeping daughter. Her heart was heavy, but at the same time, surprisingly calm, as if she had finally shed a heavy burden she had unknowingly carried all this time.